Candice Bergen, once a glittering star walking confidently through the halls of American television, was admired not just for her beauty and intelligence, but for her calm strength and poised presence. To the public, she was a success story, an actress who made it on her own terms. But behind the spotlight, the awards and the headlines, was a woman carrying wounds she rarely spoke of. Wounds of rejection, loneliness, and a father's emotional absence that shaped much of her life. Born on May 9, 1946 in Los Angeles, Candice grew up in a home that appeared glamorous from the outside. Her mother, Frances, was a model, and her father, Edgar Bergen, was a famous ventriloquist. But Candice often felt like an outsider in her own family. Her father's love and attention seemed to belong more to his wooden puppet, Charlie McCarthy, than to her. At the breakfast table, it was Charlie who sat on one of Edgar's knees while Candice, a real child, sat silently on the other. She was even asked to mimic being a puppet as part of her father's act. It was confusing, humiliating, and deeply scarring. The final devastating blow came after Edgar's death in 1978. In his will, he left $10,000 to Charlie McCarthy, his puppet, and nothing to his own daughter. Candice didn't speak out publicly or shed tears for the world to see, but the pain of being emotionally abandoned never left her. Charlie wasn't just a puppet. He was the symbol of the love she never received. Rather than collapse under the weight of that emotional void, Candice turned her pain into purpose. She wasn't going to ride on her father's fame or rely on his name. She wanted to prove she belonged, not because of legacy, but because of who she was. She started as a model, gracing the cover of Vogue with a presence that turned heads. But even modeling felt superficial. Candice longed to do more than pose. She wanted to express. She studied acting in New York and soon landed her first major film role in The Group in 1966. A bold drama that tackled themes rarely discussed at the time. That same year, she starred alongside Steve McQueen in The Sand Pebbles, which became a commercial and critical success. By her early 20s, Candice was no longer just a pretty face. She was forging her own career in a challenging and often unforgiving industry. Throughout the 1970s, she chose roles that were daring, sometimes controversial, and often ahead of their time. From Soldier Blue, a film exposing military brutality, to the hauntingly beautiful The Domino Principle, she never played it safe. She was also the first woman to host Saturday Night Live, not once but twice, breaking another barrier in a male-dominated space. But it wasn't until starting over in 1979 that critics truly took notice of Candice's comedic genius. Playing a hilariously tone-deaf aspiring singer, she earned both Golden Globe and Academy Award nominations. It was a turning point that proved she could deliver not just drama, but laughter laced with real emotion. The most defining chapter of her career began in 1988 when she became Murphy Brown, a tough, unapologetically outspoken journalist in a show that tackled politics, ethics, single motherhood, and cancer. The role earned her 5 consecutive Emmy Awards. After her 5th win, Candice withdrew her name from future nominations to make room for new talent, a rare and humble move in a competitive industry. But even as she found professional success, her personal life was marked by moments of deep sorrow. In her 30s, she met and married French filmmaker Louis Malle. Their relationship brought her peace, and at age 39, she gave birth to her daughter Chloe, an experience she considered more rewarding than any role she ever played. But joy was short-lived. In 1995, on Thanksgiving Day, Louis passed away from cancer, leaving Candice a widow and single mother. She didn't grieve publicly, but privately she admitted that Chloe was the reason she kept going. Years later, she married businessman Marshall Rose. He wasn't from the entertainment world, and perhaps that gave Candice a kind of grounding she had never known before. They lived quietly without chasing cameras or headlines. As she aged, Candice continued to work, starring in Boston Legal and later returning to Murphy Brown in a 2018 reboot. though the revival was short-lived. At 65, while working on Boston Legal, Candice suffered a minor stroke. She took only 2 weeks off before returning to set. She didn't want to be treated differently or seen as fragile. It wasn't until 6 years later that she even spoke publicly about it. Not long after, she fractured her pelvis in a fall and joked, "These days, if I fall, I break." But unlike many in Hollywood, Candice never fought aging with denial. She embraced it. She refused to dye her hair, refused plastic surgery, and once said, "I'm not what I used to be, and I don't care enough to change it." In that honesty, she found freedom. Today, Candice's world is smaller but richer. Her daughter Chloe lives just across the street. Candice is now a grandmother to a little boy named Artie. She tells him, "I love you" every single day, words she never once heard from her own parents. She says it often, even though he doesn't yet understand, because she wants him to grow up knowing what love sounds like. Candice Bergen may be best known for Murphy Brown, but her real legacy lies in how she chose to live, with dignity, authenticity, and quiet strength. She taught the world that you don't need a perfect childhood, endless awards, or constant applause to find happiness. What you need is the courage to be yourself, to rise from the shadows, forgive the past, and build the life you once longed for. If Candice's story touched you, perhaps it's because we all carry invisible wounds. But like her, we can learn that healing doesn't always come through noise. It often comes through choosing truth over and over again.